Esta semana, Vice News presenta Guerra en la República Centroafricana. Oh, shit. Conocemos a los líderes e integrantes rebeldes que se enfrentan en una sangrienta guerra sectaria entre cristianos y musulmanes.
Anti-balaka, on a entré là-bas dans le village. Quand ils ont arrivé, ils sont venus chez mon père.
Nous, les balaka, on trouve les musulmans, on va les fusiller.
En marzo de 2013, los Seleka, una agrupación rebelde musulmana, destituyó al gobierno de François Bozizé. Este acto desató una ola de violencia sectaria entre grupos cristianos, conocidos como los Anti-balaka, y musulmanes.
Le chrétien, c'est comme si le chien ou de quoi comme ça.
Danny Gold, periodista de Vice News, viajó a la República Centroafricana para documentar los daños de esta guerra que dejó miles de muertos y desplazados.
The Central African Republic is a landlocked country smack dab in the middle of Africa. Despite being full of natural resources like gold, diamonds, and uranium, it's one of the poorest countries in the world. In 2003, François Bozizé seized power and began a 10-year reign of incompetence and corruption. Different rebel groups rose up, and by the end of 2012, a number of them formed an alliance called the Seleka, a mostly Muslim rebel coalition led by Michel Djotodia. The current conflict really took hold in March of 2013, when the Seleka overthrew Bozizé's government and set about terrorizing the country, raping, murdering, and looting. Djotodia declared himself president in April, and then proved either unwilling or unable to reign in the Seleka, the very people who helped bring him to power. In response, mostly Christian self-defense groups, called the Anti-balaka, formed and started fighting back. Civilians were caught in the middle, as the fighting grew increasingly sectarian. For the past week, residents of Bangui had fled to the airport, hoping that the heavy French troop presence there would keep them protected. We're at the airport refugee camp right now. Refugees are still streaming in and out. It's really, really hot out, something like 90 degrees, and there's really no shelter in there. They have limited amounts of water, limited amounts of food, no medicine. We've heard already a baby died of malaria. Others are suffering from malnutrition. They've said that at night, the Seleka have tried to make incursions into the camp to kill more people. The Central African Republic didn't have a history of religious conflict, but the recent rise of the Seleka, made up of mostly Muslims, had triggered a lot of anger in the Christian majority population and given birth to the Anti-balaka, who blamed the Muslims for the Seleka's actions. Resentment was brewing, and in the streets, we were hearing more and more talk of religious hatred. Reconciliation seemed a distant thought, despite a heavy foreign troop presence intent on keeping the peace. It was clear that something was changing, and that something bad was building. We're in PK12 right now, which is one of the most tense neighborhoods. That's a Muslim neighborhood right next to a Christian neighborhood, so there's been sporadic fighting, especially at night, looting. We came up on the scene and there was a guy bleeding heavily from his leg, machete attack. You can tell us what happened here.
The person has suffered too much. For 10 months now, killing, stealing is too much. It's chaos. And because all weapons have not been taken from the hands of these people.
The French had spent the week trying to disarm the Seleka, but many still had their weapons. At a nearby checkpoint, French soldiers, as well as African Union troops, who were part of a multinational peacekeeping force called FOMAC, tried to keep more violence from breaking out. Within FOMAC, there were a large number of soldiers from neighboring Chad. Complicating matters, the Seleka had a large number of Chadi mercenaries in their ranks. Locals had started telling us that these ex-Seleka mercenaries had recently started blending in with the Chadian FOMAC to avoid being disarmed. On the other side of the neighborhood, Muslim civilians now feared for their safety.
As population ti aji bangi kwa aga tono enemy nando ti kwa. A population ti bangi kwa aga tono enemy nando ti petit tambla ti on yo ape. inguruchi après barrière ge ikiri.
Here, it was the anti-balaka inspiring terror, not the Seleka.
Donc le problème, ce n'est pas le gouvernement et ce n'est pas les musulmans ni les chrétiens. Les anti-balaka, c'est eux qui sont commencés dans la ville. Donc après ça, ils ont amené la force française. La force française pour désarmer les Seleka. Après le désarmement, ils n'ont pas désarmé les anti-balaka. Et les anti-balaka, après, ils viennent tuer les musulmans. Donc ils sont venus faire le massacre. Donc le massacre partout.
The attempted disarmament of the Seleka had allowed the anti-balaka to go on the offensive. The violence showed no signs of stopping, especially in Mesquite, another religiously mixed neighborhood. Even African Union troops seemed powerless to stop the anti-balaka attacks, as we would soon find out.
Ils sont là toujours. L'entrée de, hein? L'entrée de notre maison, et puis ça passait.
Oh shit! Stop. Fuck. We're in a neighborhood called Mesquite. We showed up and there was a Muslim man complaining he had been beaten by the Christians, and we followed Fomac in, and a couple of RPGs went off right away, so they backed up. And I guess they're waiting for reinforcements and they're gonna go back in, but definitely really, really tense in this neighborhood. Muslims were now finding themselves increasingly targeted.
This morning, I think one of our brothers has been killed by, Anti-balakas. You know.
What we were witnessing was a major turning point in the conflict, one still playing out now. The attempted disarming of the Seleka had put them on the defensive, and Muslim civilians were now left increasingly vulnerable. The anger created by the Seleka would now be directed at them, as would the thirst for vengeance. The next day, we followed a Muslim funeral convoy to a burial site. The mourners needed armed military escorts to bury their dead because they feared attacks. The night before, the anti-balaka had attacked a Muslim neighborhood, killing 6 people.
On est dans les quartiers. On voit les gens sortir avec les machettes, avec les fusils. Il y a beaucoup de notre famille. Ils sont dormis à la maison. Dès qu'ils sont sortis, ils ont trouvé les morts devant les portes. On a trouvé beaucoup de morts des musulmans sur les routes.
The Seleka had inspired such a strong level of hate that innocent Muslims were now being butchered as revenge by the anti-balaka. We'd seen the trauma the Seleka had caused to the people here and how it was now playing out. We wanted to talk to the Seleka. What had they hoped to accomplish when they rose up? Luckily, we didn't have to look far to find answers. General Abdel Kader Khalil, President Joe Todia's right-hand man, was staying at the fanciest hotel in town.
Tongana moke centrafricain. Si moke ti village tu l'appelles, moke warakwana ti kodrosape. Moke centrafricain. Si moke na ti rasti lo bayape, moke warakwana ti kodrosape. Même diplôme ti moni, asiati malette.
Bozizé hadn't exactly run the country well, but the Seleka had been even worse once they took power. At a nearby base, we met another high-ranking Seleka officer, General Yaya, as he lounged around with his men trying to avoid the French patrols.
Alam beni bandi aiti tene afa datizu et puis ala ke fa a civil a ke contre ala vizenga beni gouvernement.
General Yaya accused the anti-balaka of the same sort of indiscriminate attacks the Seleka had been doing for so long. We wanted to know how the anti-balaka would justify what we had been seeing. We just had to find them. Finally, a group agreed to meet us in a neighborhood known for being an anti-balaka stronghold. What do you think of what's happening in Commandant? People are looting shops, they're going after all the goods, and they're stealing and looting and everything. Why is this happening?
Vous avez vu, ils ont pillé maison par maison quand les Seleka sont arrivés. Ils veulent maintenant, en revanche, piller également les biens de la communauté musulmane.
Shortly after we met the group in the city, our fixer came through and got us access to some of the camps. The first camp we went to was at an old school. Fighters lazed about, some armed, some stoned, many young. They were an irregular force, armed mostly with nothing but homemade weapons and machetes. Many wore gris-gris, lucky charms and talismans they believed made them invisible and bulletproof.
On ne peut pas accepter une dossier comme président. S'il ne veut pas démissionner, on doit attaquer, on est prêt. On n'est pas dans une province, on n'est pas loin des Bangui.
NGOs had reported that there were up to 6,000 child soldiers in the conflict, and a lot of the fighters looked really, really young. They wanted things to go back to the way they were. For Angry Lion, his reasons for taking up arms was intensely personal.
What future do you hope to see for your son?
After hanging around this camp for a while, some of the higher-ups agreed to take us to another, more hidden camp. We hopped into a pickup truck with a bunch of fighters piling into the back and headed out, half wondering if they would make us safer or put us more at risk. A commander I affectionately named Bullethead agreed to escort us. We soon learned that the Anti-balaka weren't the most organized of forces.
We just saw some irregular military justice. Apparently that guy was supposed to stand guard, and he saw us coming, he thought we were Seleka, and he ran away and just dropped his barrier. So the commanders weren't too fond of that, and they taught him a lesson.
Every village we drove through, people took off running, terrified, thinking we were the Seleka. Once they realized that we were the Anti-balaka, we were met with cheers and applause. Once we arrived at the other camp, it took a bit of schmoozing, but the commander agreed to give us an interview.
Anti-balaka a rébellion. Anti-balaka a révolution nationale, a rébellion. À la fin, peuple centrafricain, à la violé, à Mouawali, partout. À la pillé, partout. À normal pas. C'est pourquoi il sera un conjo. Tu tenais, il tombe là, en deux quadroti. Et il tombe là, ouais, il wani, na force soit force française, soit Miska, il n'a la quoi, il est là. Il m'a beaucoup na la titane, il sera désarmement Bangui.
There were troops everywhere, but they weren't making much of a difference. It seemed like nothing could stop the inevitable. Despite the odds, there were some Central Africans in Bangui trying to stop their city from tearing itself apart. Jupiterek, a local NGO, was doing its best to urge reconciliation.
Tell me about this clinic, why it's so special, and how it fits into your strategy of reconciliation.
What we have done is to take contact with community leaders, pastors, imams. We talk with them to encourage both Christians and Muslims to come here. And also in our team, we have both Christians, nurses, and Muslims, nurses also, which work together. We see that it is a strategy to build peace.
Jupiterek gave us some hope, but they were facing incredible obstacles. They needed much more help, and it seemed like international support would soon be on its way. U.S. Ambassador to the UN Samantha Power, a strong proponent of humanitarian intervention, came to town a few days later to pledge support.
President Obama asked me to travel to the Central African Republic to show the people that America cares.
Right after Power spoke, we saw the president's family catching a flight to Benin, fleeing the country. For many in the Central African Republic, Power's words would not be enough. Anything short of removing the president from office would not be acceptable, and we were about to find out why.
Samantha Power just left. We got a call that the Anti-balaka are attacking now.
We headed towards PK-12, where the attack was happening.
Oh, shit. Okay, follow, go.
We followed the French troops for a bit, then decided it would be wise to give them a little bit of distance before continuing. That's when we started running into trouble. We came up on a checkpoint that had just been set up. The Anti-balaka attack had been relatively minor, but the former Seleka, now masquerading as Chadi and Fomak, had responded by lighting up the surrounding areas with a ton of gunfire.
Stop, wait.
Oui, on est là.
C'est le Tchadien qui veut tuer tout le monde. Ici en Gobongo, il va tuer tout le monde ici. Les Fomak Tchadiens qui a fait ça. Les Fomak Tchadiens.
Mon frère. Viens.
Two men had been shot. We were trying to figure out how to get them to the hospital, but we were surrounded. We decided to load the wounded men into the truck and try to take them to the hospital. As soon as we got moving, we had to stop again. There was no safe way out. We didn't really know where we were or how
do we get to the
out.
hospital?
We were defenseless, so we tried to grab a white flag, hoping it would serve as some protection.
Stop. Fuck, buddy. Where are the French when you need them?
It's tense, and like this is what these people go through every night. It's terrifying.
Oui, ce sont des Fomak qui se disent des Fomak, mais alors c'est des Fomak tchadiens. Donc c'est des Seleka qui se sont portés en uniforme Fomak pour tirer sur la population civile.
A short while later, we were told that the men in the back didn't make it. A few weeks after we left, President Joe Todia stepped down from office and a new president was elected. Many members of the Seleka fled north, continuing to attack. The Anti-balaka increased their attacks against Muslim civilians. Brutal lynchings became routine. Bangi's Muslim population dwindled from around 130,000 to less than 1,000. The United Nations reported that the entire western part of the country has been cleansed of Muslims and is now debating deploying a peacekeeping operation. The time we spent in the Central African Republic really was a major turning point in the conflict. When the French troops came in to put a stop to the Seleka's reign of terror, it was a welcome sight for many. But everyone underestimated the Anti-balaka. And despite them promising that they would drop their weapons after the Seleka left, they proved to be just as destructive. The UN sending peacekeepers would be a step in the right direction. But it could be a long time before Muslims are safe again in Bangui. And an even longer time before those who are forced to leave can come back.
La República Centroafricana es uno de los países más pobres del mundo, pero también muy rico en recursos naturales, como la minería. Este sector ha colapsado en medio del sangriento conflicto que vive el país. Los enfrentamientos por el control de las minas de oro y diamantes han fomentado la tensión religiosa en lugares donde nunca antes había existido conflicto. Vice News viajó a las minas ubicadas en el corazón de la República Centroafricana para ver cómo se está librando esta batalla por los recursos naturales en medio de una de las guerras más violentas de nuestros tiempos.
The village of Carnot, in the southwest of the country, has been one of the flashpoints of the conflict. The town is at the centre of a diamond-rich area and is now under the control of the Christian Anti-balaka. Their violent and recurring attacks have forced the local Muslim population, who they accuse of being Seleka, to seek refuge in a local church.
Les musulmans sont à l'église. Là, sur les Seleka, ils sont fuis, la mort. Quand on le trouve, on va le tuer. Nous, les Balaka, on trouve les musulmans, on va le tuer. Parce que c'est notre pays. Ils sont venus là-bas pour nous tuer tous les jours. Bon, à l'église, on ne peut pas le tuer là-bas. C'est l'église chrétienne. On va laisser les là-bas. Mais il faut les rentrer chez lui. On va tuer les musulmans. On va le tuer toujours.
Tatali, a long-time aide to the local priest, now works to assist the more than 500 Muslims currently hiding in the church's enclave.
La crise est menacée par les groupes armés et ils se sont déplacés pour se réfugier ici à l'église catholique. C'est depuis le mois de février 2014 qu'ils sont là.
Those living in the camp are stuck in a state of limbo, relying exclusively on the assistance of NGOs for survival and unable to leave for fear of being attacked by the local Christian militia. The conflict has torn apart friends and families, sometimes across the religious divide. Mamadou was saved by a Christian family friend who couldn't prevent his father's killing but helped the son survive.
Anti-balaka, on est entré là-bas dans le village. Quand ils sont arrivés, ils sont venus tuer mon père.
As night falls, parents and their children come together to sleep. Orphans and those without families are left to spend the night on their own. At dawn on Sunday morning, after prayers, the displaced Muslims pack their belongings, put back the benches and leave the church to make space for the Sunday Mass.
Je me suis retrouvé à plus de 1000 musulmans dans l'église. J'ai été plusieurs fois pointé, mis à genoux. Je me rappelle encore le jour où les Balaka étaient venus ici avec une quarantaine de litres d'essence et brûler la Constitution au cas où je ne leur libère pas les musulmans. En me laissant faire, je les ai convaincus à ne pas agresser et puis à venir au bureau, au salon discuter. J'ai eu gain de cause. Vraiment, je rejette en bloc cette hypothèse qui dit que c'est un conflit religieux. On est nés ensemble, on a grandi ensemble. Moi, d'après mes analyses, donc il y a ça, on nous a poussés et puis on a mis les gens ensemble. Pour se situer un peu par rapport au pouvoir économique, c'est par rapport aux mines. Mais les musulmans, de manière générale, possèdent le pouvoir économique. Ils ont des moyens. Ils exploitent le diamant dont seuls les musulmans possédaient. C'est vrai qu'Arnaud héberge encore beaucoup des anti-balaka. Il faut les sensibiliser.
The anti-balaka control over the region puts the resources of the local diamond mining operations in the hands of the Christian community. Among those benefiting from the power shift is Bartholomew Numsemnon, the regional coordinator for the Anti-balaka. After having been imprisoned by Seleka rebels, he returned to Carnot, where he now controls mining operations.
Ils voulaient nous conquérir, ils voulaient nous faire des musulmans de force. Comme ceci s'est passé, pour nous défendre valablement, il faudrait que nous fassions notre révolution. On a prouvé aux musulmans les faux là pour dire qu'avec leurs armes, de quoi tout ça là, on est capable de les chasser chez nous. Ceux qui sont dans la mission catholique, avec qui on vivait ensemble, familial, entre nous, on mangeait main à main la plaie qui nous ont fendu au cœur n'est pas encore guéri, madame. Bon, maintenant, nous allons au chantier sur l'axe Baoro. Ce chantier appartient à mon père. Oui, ceux qui étaient ici, chassés par les Séléka, brûlés leur maison par les Séléka. Et c'était en les tuant qu'on a eu les grenades, les lance-roquettes. Hein? Notre force anti-balaka, c'est eux. Quand on les tuait, et puis on récupérait leurs armes pour se retourner contre eux maintenant.
International organisations have denounced anti-balaka control of mine sites, but Christian mining operators like Bartholomew believe they are just reclaiming what they consider to be their rightful property.
Aucune balle n'atteindra personne parmi nous. Je serai votre protecteur. N'ayez pas peur, ne créez rien. Tout ça là, ça m'appartient. Bon, mais c'est les pierres, on les remis. Parce que c'est moi le chef chantier. On les amène en ville et je les mets face au patron, quitte à eux maintenant de faire leur prix au patron. Bon, quand le patron, c'est au trop peut-être si la valeur peut faire au moins 1 million. 1 million, on divise ça par 2. 500 000, c'est pour les manœuvres. 500 000 francs, c'est pour moi le chef chantier.
Prior to the conflict, Christians were usually digging in the mines, while Muslims were collecting the diamonds and selling them on the international market, which created inequalities and resentment.
Ala gati tene abubai la leti anando ci kodroti do i gara kwati jamata na sigi i kagina a kutaje ci kodroti i kana arabu ape i kana men jondi ape do i kagina kutaje ci kodroti araba on so ba fa so kodo na mai pendre a wi mbata gina se watimbi a wala njoni ko be ala te par rapport na ti kozo i wala jama buba ina ndoni.
Il a 12 ans. À partir de ce garçon, de cet enfant-ci, on nous disait que c'est nous qui faisions des petits garçons-ci, des enfants soldats. On a peur de les perdre, qu'ils soient d'être tués par les Séléka, abattre par les Séléka. Et c'était comme ça que eux aussi, ils étaient initiés, ils ont pris du remède pour ne pas qu'ils soient atteints par balle et puis mourir. C'est comme ça pour un petit Africain, centrafricain même.
Now richer than before the conflict, it is hard to see how Christians like Bartholomew could return to working alongside Muslims. At the end of 2013, the Seleka were forced to give up power and retreat towards the east, where they began regrouping. We travelled to Bambari, a city at the centre of the country that has become the front line of the conflict. We met with General Ali Darassa, a former Seleka fighter and local strongman. He is now the leader of the Union for Peace, or UPC, a faction made up of former Seleka militia members. His armed forces have complete control over roughly half of Bambari. His men carry heavy weapons openly, despite the presence of UN troops.
Avant qu'il n'arrive ici, il y avait tout un tas de désordre. Les armes crépitaient, il n'y avait pas le calme. Il était nommé par décret présidentiel. Vous voyez, la paix commence à revenir. C'est lui qui a assuré la sécurité de 2 communautés. Vous êtes chrétien, vous êtes musulman. C'est M. Ali Darassa avec son staff qui fait son travail.
Ali Darassa says he is protecting the population from the anti-balaka militias who control the west of the town. However, his protection does not come for free. Cattle is Bambari's main industry and source of income for local residents, just like diamonds for the people of Carnot. Ali Darassa's protection allows the cattle trade to survive in the region. In exchange, cattle owners must pay a toll to the UPC. In September, Darassa's men killed several Christians in front of a mosque, sparking days of brutal fighting between the Seleka and the Christian community. As a result, thousands of Christians fled to camps guarded by the UN. We crossed a bridge that divides Bambari and headed to the west of the town to visit one of the camps set up inside a disused cotton factory.
Passé dans le quartier, les éléments de Ali Dara, ça a fait éruption vers... Parce que, comme je vous l'avais dit, la ville est divisée sur le fleuve Ouaka. Donc de l'autre côté, ce sont les chrétiens. Et c'est par rapport à ça qu'ils se sont réfugiés ici pour être en sécurité. Donc si les éléments de Ali Dara, ça fait éruption, ils vont tuer tout le monde. Donc ils tirent sur tout ce qui bouge. La population sont obligée parce qu'il n'y a pas de lieu normal à dormir, ils sont obligés de dormir ici.
Le CIC, le maman traversait la pont là-bas, ils sont tués. Le papa est déjà parti à la Bambari. Le frère ils sont partis à la Bambari. Moi je suis ici.
Nous sommes prêts pour défendre le pays, mais seulement le gouvernement qui ne veut pas. Le gouvernement est avec les gens qui sont nous contournés. Donc tu vois que... Parce qu'ils savent même bien que si l'armée répond à toutes ces choses-là, ça doit finir. Mais eux, ils ne veulent pas que ça doit finir, il faut que ça continue. Ça nous permette avec la France pour aller voler. Leur recherche, c'est juste ça. Même si la paix revient entre chrétiens et musulmans. Moi, je ne peux pas voir un musulman passe comme ça devant moi. Je dois la battre. Ça, c'est ça dans ma tête.
With the Anti-balaka militia in control of the southwest and the Seleka in the northeast, the Central African Republic is effectively split along ethno-religious lines. In Bambari, as in Carnot, powerful leaders will continue to pay lip service to the peace process as long as they stand to benefit from the conflict. With no state to guarantee them safety and justice, Central Africans remain caught in a cycle of violence at the mercy of strong men.
Después de aplazar en varias ocasiones las elecciones, la República Centroafricana tuvo comicios en febrero pasado. Resultando ganador fue Astuatu Adera, quien fue primer ministro del destituido presidente Bozizé. Tudera enfrentará grandes retos para reducir la tensión sectaria, para implementar la justicia y proteger a la sociedad civil, ya que el conflicto sigue latente. La próxima semana, Vice News presenta las pandillas de El Salvador. Viajamos al país centroamericano para investigar el conflicto entre pandillas, que ha provocado que El Salvador sea el país más violento del mundo.
La única fuerza viva y real que existe en nuestras comunidades se llama pandilla.
Y después, investigamos el problema de salud mental en India, donde la falta de infraestructura y los estigmas sociales afectan principalmente a mujeres que son forzadas a recibir tratamientos.
What is this medicine for? Was not sick, but I was being made sick.
Busca más documentales y noticias de todo el mundo en vicenews.com, en el canal de YouTube o nuestra cuenta de Facebook, Vice News en Español, o en este mismo espacio la próxima semana.